So economically, I don't know what you saw to have that meeting, but to me, you're setting yourselves up. Because I don't see that economic outlook. Something could change. You're making deals very quickly, which to me says the data's right. The data that everybody else has is correct. But you're trying to repair the economy before it falls. So now you're pressured to make deals. I don't know what you promised to get those deals. Again, nobody does. Right. Maybe you promised investment in something that they're affiliated with. But again, if the economy was doing bad, you blame Biden, you got in there. Now, the economy's not doing the best, I really believe. I mean, based upon what I see. Right. However, oh, yeah, this microphone sounds a little better. It's my old model, but I think I have to just, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other, what do they call that? EQ, and I'm going to make it more flat and see if it sounds better. But I think maybe that'd be the key. I have some standard settings that I might bring up in the other microphone to see if I can clear it up, because it is kind of, I put the bass up, but it sounds kind of mumbled. So I'll see what I can do. There's like 3 or 4 standard settings, high fidelity or something, or bright and something else. So we'll see. Well, you're blaming the immigrants, which kind of works too, and everybody's getting into it. But I don't think a year from now, if you're still blaming somebody, I don't think people will be into it. The immigrant thing is only going to go so far. I don't fully believe that the economy got screwed up because of immigrants. In fact, when Biden took over the economy, it was worse off. Right. I mean, we just go to reality, because that reality is going to replay itself. And what I'm trying to do is to stop you from creating that tit for tat. I would have made some deals and ended the tit for tat and did some bipartisan stuff. Right. That's where Obama really scored. I mean, it was a pretty bad, he took over a pretty bad economy. And so did Biden, quite frankly. But I think Biden and his people are corrupt, and that kind of failed everything else further. I mean, he did bring the economy to a point where people were, like, if he didn't do what he did, the economy would have been, I mean, really horrendous. Because although there was inflation, there was increase in wages. So there was no, that's why I don't understand what you're talking about. The increase in wages under Joe Biden were immense. Now, if you're going to talk about the first 6 months of Biden, then maybe. Because, I mean, it was still, still coming out of COVID. Right. Boy, the amount of money, that I was making, again, the last year was kind of shitty, or 2 years, because retired people didn't get much. People are annuities or retirements. But the employees got a lot of money. Right. So, I mean, they even saw a larger pay increase than I did. I mean, each year, I think they saw another % at least. And in that last year, they probably saw like another 3% or something. Just, again, I was only paying $700 and something to live. Before COVID, I was paying $700 and something and it was a good deal, but to live in Norman, Oklahoma, in a well-run extended stay. Today, I probably have to pay something like $1,200 or $1,300. But then again, I think my pay over those years, that was like 2018 or something. Actually, yeah, about 2018, 2019. 2019. My pay pretty much, so it didn't cover it, but it covered probably, about, let me see. I guess about 80% of it. Let me see if that's correct. So my pay increased by 50%. I think it did. At least I think it did. Right. So it kind of covered it. It didn't completely cover it, but it covered it, a lot of it. Right. I wasn't making all that much money. I mean, money again, dollar-wise, cost of living-wise. There's a trade-off there. So wages did go up, because you're talking about wages going up, and I'm like, what are you talking about? My wages went up by like 50%. I've never seen anything like this. Right. My wages were almost stagnant for like a bunch of years, but there was no inflation too, right? So again, you're buying into something that probably won't work. Now, I think your plan is to eventually deliver something in the Gaza, deliver something in Ukraine, and say the economy is working great, even if it isn't. So I don't know the effects of that completely. But again, when you're in the office, it's different than being outside the office, even in the first, 6, we're only talking about 6 months. So a lot of people say give them a chance. But when you get to about a year, that's when people start, looking and squinting, looking at you with one eye closed, one eye open, like, well, what the hell's going on? Right. Thank you, Larry. Well, you already caused the friction, and you're increasing it now, and then you're going to get that back and forth, the tit for tat. The people lose when there's tit for tat. Right? You might try a third party thing and see if you can do the same thing you did last time, but I don't think you'll be able to do it. And again, somebody was speaking about the young people. I don't agree with everything she said, but she's right. When the young people finally get a grip on things, they're not going to vote for you. They did last time. You did the RFK thing. That got some of the vote over there. They were mad at Biden for like stupid stuff. I mean, they're very emotional, so they can be moved back and forth. But again, once you're in office, it's hard to move them back and forth. Right? Like right now, I guess the talking point is that the Democrats are the same do-nothing people they've always been, and they don't care about you, and that's why Trump's able to do this. And right. If you don't have the Senate or the House, you can't do anything. And that's what they're going to probably tell people. And that may get them the votes. Well, I warned you. I said, just focus on the job, do the job, and that's it. I said, yeah, people went this way and that way. Trump is still investigatable, and everybody knows it. They put it in the news every day. But why are they doing that? Because you went somewhere you shouldn't have went, right? Well, you're running a deep state. That's obvious. I'm not here to play games. When it comes to the deep state, it's killed enough people. I don't give a shit what your opinion is on what you're doing. I'm reversed. Voila. Yeah, that's how they took all my ideas and ran with it. They reverse everything, so it becomes their ideas. So now I see it. Whoa. Well, I'm just telling you, you're firing people that were honest or semi-honest. Yeah, in other words, you don't want the kind of people working. This is how you're going to die by the sword. The people you're describing, people that won't investigate something for political, because really it would be political reason. There was probable cause. Right? So those type of people are probably going to kill you, get you. I'm going to say kill you. That's not the proper term. I mean, it is, but it isn't. In other words, the type of government employee you're saying all these people you're firing should be are the type of government employees that are going to get you, because they have no allegiance to the government. They just have allegiance to corruption. Right. Right. I mean, you have a handful of people that wouldn't investigate it, and they were actually, they were really like, that was their juice. Like, everybody knows that there's political juice in the government. Years ago, people like me could just work and not worry about anything, right? You just do what your boss says, and your boss takes care of you. See, that's what happened what happened is the bosses didn't take care of me, right? So most likely it's going to be karma. A bunch of people who are just a bunch of, they don't do their job. And, what I'm trying to say is the people they fired that were MAGA were actually political. They didn't fire anybody, they didn't fire Republicans en masse. And what you're doing is you're firing probably Democrats en masse or anybody that investigated you. That's not going to go over well in the end. Now, you may believe in your Supreme Court power, and your judicial power is your pointing, but that's, I don't know, when the book comes out as to when they keep book, which means they're preparing a case from inside the FBI already. Right. And I can recall things they did to me, 25 years ago. I don't even have to keep book because they're taught to recall. Right. I can recall things they did to me 30 years ago. Thank you, Larry. That's what these operations were designed to do, is to fog my memory. They're doing it right now. It's funny. They do use Amazon. They use everything. So there's an element of counter spycraft that the deep state causes a government employee to realize. So part of that is the ability to recall without writing something down. Spies need the capability to remember things to speak about it later without having to write it down. So again, although they're keeping book, they don't need the book. Now, if an FBI agent's keeping book and he plans to prosecute you and you're in power in the presidency, I guarantee you won't find the book. Right. Well, to me, a lot of them are just doing their job. You're not going to find that number. And again, I don't care. They fucked my life, put it bluntly. They're just as bad as the LDS people, and they have been mixed in with the LDS people. Right. Doesn't make me a bad person because you're a criminal, all of you. Like I said, God already told me it's not about you, it's about them. That's why the scripture doesn't work 100%. Like, why should I be afraid of God? It's the deep state and all those people that are doing stuff to me. It's not God. Oh, they're with God? Oh, okay. Oh, the LDS are with God? That's real. Y'all just believe your own bullshit. And I don't know if you believe it. God coined the term early on for me to understand. It's what's called willful ignorance. So there is no innocence in willful ignorance. And again, if you're part of a system that suppresses information, like scriptural information, then you got no hope. Because you're responsible for you not knowing not to do something if that's what your argument is. Again, God's my lawyer and I'm God's lawyer. I just, when I talk about my lawyer, it's God. It's Hashem. Hashem's my lawyer and I'm Hashem's lawyer. I don't think you can beat us. I mean, when it comes to going to hell. Thank you, Larry. Filling up the oil lamps here. Well, one of the things, they say, well, you're like Phil Haney and you're going to end like Phil Haney and all this stuff. You have to understand, if you say that, then that tells me Phil Haney was forced into whistleblowing. So I don't know if it's true or not, but, right. So they know not what they say, but they know what they say is evil. Right. Thank you. Mary. It's a scam. The whole thing's a scam. Like even stuff that, well, because you're allowing them to take over a person's psychology. And in their mind, well, yeah, because he's an inferior person. You know, it's, again, supremacy. Right? Government supremacy is pretty bad, too. Right? Somebody's saying they spoke freely with the people I used to work with that were honest, and they know that were semi-honest at least. Well, because the FBI, it's like, the FBI used to come to our office and it'd be like meeting the Trump administration. You're fired! Right. Oh, it's just horrible people. Assholes, horrible people. Right. But some weren't like that. And they said that, you know, the best employee they actually ever saw. Right. And, you know, they vouched for the psychological operation after the fact. Right. I talk about people calling internal. Again, some of it was about me as far as what they were doing to me. And there was nothing ever happened, you know. Oh, actually, it did. I take that back. The way I understand it, and I can't be sure, that there was another investigation that was investigating everybody that was doing this to me. But because the CIA was involved, they knew and others, that they knew the investigation was going on. So this is what tells you what's going to happen in the future. This is how effed up the government is. You got to remember, I'm doing all the work. And when it hit the end, when I had no real life left, I said, you know, let them go home early. I'll do all the late work. Don't worry about it. And I wasn't doing like, well, he's grooming us. He's trying to get us to stop. And they weren't investigating me lawfully. So again, the whole thing was that in the end, there was an ultimatum. That there would be a case if they didn't move in other directions, but then they just hired other people. They have retired people. Like what you're doing right now is really dangerous to the Trump administration. You're putting all these FBI agents out, and this is how the deep state is powered. Like you as an FBI agent can only go so far, but Joe Schmo that used to work there 5 years ago that you know when you were a younger agent can do whatever he wants as a quote-unquote PI and a political operative. Right. Or Joanne Schmo. So you're actually increasing the number of operators that are out here. Oh, they can make a lot of money out here, believe me. It's just, if you're like, can't retire, that's pretty bad, and then they have a case. There's going to be huge cases off of this, right? But the idea is the president can't just do what he wants. And the president's, again, the scriptures will tell you all things, that you can do all things, but all things are not expedient. That's kind of where the Supreme Court is in what they're saying. As a president, you can do all things, but because you can't commit a crime for crime's sake. You never got to that part of the ruling. Well, because it never got fully adjudicated. Right. Their statements were made. I'll just tell you that. That's what they're saying. And they don't even have to fight for these people to flip. But there are other people that will flip because they'll be threatened with the loss of their job. You see. So again, it's not going to end well. I told you to reduce the friction. 100%. Whether you're responsible for what happened to me in the church is neither here nor there. If you are, that's probably why you're so stupid that you're doing things to kill your future. Right. That's pretty much how it happens. Your minds get blinded, and then you do stuff to get yourselves in trouble. A lot of people being fired are people that did things in my life. So again, I'm not totally against it, but I'm historically, I'm a good person, and even people that come against me, I give second chances to. But that's why I'm the angel and you're all not. Right. But okay, you can say I don't have money. What kind of angel is that? But then that tells, there's one of them that didn't give you money and thinks it's funny. I mean, I'm owed. Even Cash Patel theoretically stole from me, and his boss, whatever his name was. Truth was my idea. What they want is for me to be so angry at you that I come at you. I've already investigated that. I don't need to do it. Again, some of the investigations are for me, some of the investigations are for God. Well, because God gathers evidence and then he throws, like, based upon my investigations, God throws probably billions and probably even trillions and trillions of people into hell. I came to Earth on a fact-finding mission, but I was never supposed to be in a body, so that fact-find is a pretty egregious one. So God specifies no body, you'll be a spirit, you're an angel, you go to Earth. And here I am in a body. Well, part of the Venus thing was part of trying to get to Earth. Because I enter the existence. When I enter the existence, then the wills that go against God begin to pick up. But that's also part of it's not part of the investigation, but then that becomes part of the investigation. No, I was an investigator before I had a body. A physical body. Thank you, Larry. That's where they get all that from the angels. That's pretty much it. Like, you never leave, a ranger never leaves a ranger behind. That's from angels. Angel stuff. So it's a lot of it's paradoxical and stuff. God's big on paradoxes. Because God doesn't have to do anything. How does God do that? Isn't that interesting? God creates paradoxes everywhere. So God's like even using my voice instead of his voice. I'll just use, he sends my voice somewhere and people hear what I say right now, like 200 years ago. It's called prophecy. But it's me talking. And other people. It's not just me. No, God doesn't have to do much. You're all a mess. Right? Actually, God has to do much. But again, you do it to yourselves. Again, what you're using against the FBI now will be used against you in a few years. It's just, I've tried to educate all of you over the years, but we got money and we own the LDS church. I mean, come on. Right. Well, I already received some stuff from the Trump administration on what their plans are to counter that, but I don't see it being enough. But it could be. Well, one of the things they're going to do is eventually accept. What they're hoping for is the short memory syndrome that the politics generally takes advantage of. So what they're hoping is that when they hope to come up with something in the Gaza, they hope to come up with something as far as employment of immigrants, right? So they're hoping that's going to counter. But again, you're the person in the hot seat, right? Well, the deep state's out there operating. You don't realize it, but that's really part of what got you all in. People were angry and had not been, in other words, they hadn't supported you before and found out that you don't protect them from the deep state, okay? And you take money. You obviously, your people at least, take money from the deep state. All that money that you said shouldn't have been out there is out there paying people to allow deep state operations in my life and in my life of other people. So the bottom line is this. Once the people learn that you're not going to protect them while they support you, you're going to be like Biden. Right? Again, you're going to be like Obama. So again, that thing's going to play out again. Right. And actually, if you're so focused on money, you make more money by being out of power than you do generally in power. But again, this time it might be different. Right. I guess, I got to wait. It's saying you got to wait for the next couple of years to see if that's true. So people are paying for you to get in power and stop the people that are screwing their life and screwing their family. And then if you don't protect them, boop, then it flips. Looking at Tim Cook, I would say that the deep state is attacking Tim Cook. That's what I would say. Now, I don't know, is it really Trump or is it the deep state trying to put Trump in like that? I've investigated that one on and off over the years. Thank you. Because part of this is that you're trying to, every deep state entity is trying to make it look like the other political party is doing it. That's one of the scams. Well, because they can get money then to operate the people that are coming against the other political parties. So again, the whole political turmoil is part of your money-making scheme. But again, you were lucky to win in 2024. I was the one that warned you of 2024. Right. Well, because the younger people are going to shift. You were able to get that younger vote, but now it's like, what? Well, because you have people like Edward Korstein, but Edward Korstein is not anybody. He's just a spoon-fed. He's just a spoon-fed person. Right. And the average person will begin to see the difference. Again, he doesn't even know how to live in D.C. without getting carjacked. He's lucky he didn't get beat up and his girlfriend raped, right? Thank you, Larry. It's like when I tell you rules about what your kids should wear. I mean, these are, you can scream, well, that's weird, or they shouldn't have to wear other clothes just because men are attracted to them. In fact, you're attracted to them because you said it. Nah, bullshit. There are rules on how not to get raped in New York City that used to be in existence. And maybe they don't talk about it, but it may still exist. Right. Ways to, like, you'll see women wear baggy clothes. Right. I think we see that a lot, actually. We still see that in New York City. When you get to, like the guy that goes to used to go to I don't watch him as much anymore, but he goes to the New York City apartments, how much you pay for rent in New York City. A lot of those women are wearing the right clothes. Right. They're still attractive, but they don't stimulate maybe some sort of, sex offender, right? So again, any advice I give you as a cop, they'll say his advice is a criminal, and so you should know that's their modus operandi, and should disregard them. So again, saying that you were deceived is not going to get you out of what you all did. It doesn't matter if anybody prosecutes, because again, prosecution, you go to jail, even the death penalty has limitations. but God's reign doesn't. So you're the devils and you're going to hell no matter how many churches you own. They're rather psychotic in religion, I'll tell you that. Thank you, Larry. I'm sexually out. It's not, like, again, victim shaming. I was sexually operated by every church I've ever been in. And I am the highest, or the most knowledgeable metaphysical genius on the planet. And it probably has ever been on the planet. And that's obvious. So you're not going to tell me something else and get me to believe it. Right. And again, tell me means brainwash. Again, every time I say something like tell me, they're brainwashing me. If you only say what you want, then it'll be okay. But that only lasts like 5 minutes. Because they're no longer sexually excited, right, until they do this to me. It's their sexuality. It's psychosexual. So again, the administration is obviously moving politically while it's saying everybody else is. Well, I told you not to do it, and just move on and do your jobs. Do what the people elected you to do. Trump don't care because he's not going to be prosecuted. He figures he can fit into where Biden did. He's just too old to really prosecute. Right. But the rest of you are much younger. No, there was a reason to look at Trump. The Russians were everywhere around him. Just because you're running for office doesn't mean that you're non-investigatable. But they have to like I said with Hillary, they have to manage how they investigate, right? And they can't really interfere with elections, and they didn't, right? You can't, again, nobody in history has investigated the independent counsel because they're just doing their job. And there's laws against it. You fired people for doing their job. You don't have an argument. Now, people in the FBI are very easily to fire, so there's very little recourse they have. So that's why they'll keep book and create a case. And you've already made statements. Like I said, they'll sit in there and have coffee and badmouth Driggs and everyone else when you fire them. Keep their job, but they're keeping book. Well, if you reassign somebody, that's one thing, but to fire them's another. I mean, you just like no money, bye. Right? Now, it doesn't work like that in the federal government because there's laws and rules. You're in power. That's the only reason that nobody can do anything. No, you might have billionaires going to jail. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing on the inside and what they're saying. Elon Musk is prosecutable at this point. What's his name? Evan Bove, whatever it is, he's prosecutable at this point. I'm not telling you they're going to be prosecuted. I'm just and convicted. I'm just telling you they are. From out here, I can tell. And if I can tell from out here, they can definitely tell from in there. All right. No, a lot of people are getting got that did this to me. But again, I'm still the same person. I'm fair and consistent. Right. Which means I'm historically protective of my enemy to make sure that we don't destroy the system. Right. But I mean, the system's there's probably nothing left, right? A bunch of one-way people running around thinking they're God. That's pretty much what we got nowadays. Right. But of course, they're devils. Trump would have most likely been prosecuted, but he would never went, like I said, he would never went to jail. Right? They maybe did some home detention for a while, but I don't think all that long. I don't think they would have let him do it at Mar-a-Lago. I think because of the money that he had, they would have had Trump rent some place that's like an average place. Right? Unless he kept going stupidly, and then they would have. Right? I wouldn't have been that long. Even if they did put him in a jail, it wouldn't have been that long, and there's no way they could put him in, what do they call that? General population. Right. Well, since COVID, there's a lot of alternative incarceration for certain people, right? Especially people that have age difficulties because of age. So that saves a lot of money. I mean, because you have to send them to like the medical place and all that, and it's just really expensive. Right. So he would have, at the worst, he'd have been in a private wing of a jail somewhere or something like that, right? And they wouldn't have kept him in there long. They would have been an argument, and he would have been out. But he probably would have been house arrest, like I said, and they wouldn't let him stay at Mar-a-Lago. He'd have to buy or rent someplace or buy someplace that he could stay that was away from his family. I guess maybe he has something somewhere, I'm sure, in the Trump treasure trove. But they wouldn't let him stay. My point is they wouldn't let him stay in the lap of luxury. They would require just like a basic place, right? You have to go rent a 2-bedroom apartment. The Secret Service live in the bedrooms. You have to live in the one room. It wouldn't be that bad, but he would have to live in a normal. That's probably how they would have fashioned it. Right? I mean, because you can't say, okay, you're going to be incarcerated at Mar-a-Lago, right? But it would have been like a home detention. He just find some place that's an average place to live, right? Without a servant, he wouldn't have his servants, but he'd have Secret Service, so they would help him. So it wouldn't be like everyone else, right? Unless he continued to threaten witnesses from the incarceration, right? No, making good on threats isn't always a good thing. I mean, there's evidence that there's probable cause to believe. Again, I speak on probable cause a lot of times. I'm well on that, very well on that. Although the few times that I just was playing, what do they call defense attorney, or something like that. Because defense attorneys, when you don't have the law, there's actually a step they don't talk about. Right, you argue the facts and then argue this and that. Right. Well, you argue bullshit. Yeah, actually, is that in there? It's like an equation. If you don't have the law, if you don't have the facts, you argue the law. If you don't have the law, you argue. But there's probable cause. The president's not absolutely protected. The Supreme Court never said that. You're allowed to commit crimes if you're in the effectuation of your duty. You're not, like, if you conspired to fire FBI agents because those son of guns have to go because they investigated you, and that is somewhere, or investigated Trump, then you're not covered. It just takes a statement like that. Because you're not in the performance, your duty is not to fire people that prosecuted Trump. In the performance of office, the office of the president is not to say anybody that prosecuted the president has to be fired. If you made statements to that effect that somebody has and witnessed it, right, or even recorded it, then you're outside of the scope of your employment. Again, that's pretty much how it works. The scope of the president's office is the scope of his employment. His employment is not there to fire everybody that prosecuted him or investigated him or investigated J6. That's outside the scope of their employment. Now, you may have prepared a case and said and had evidence, but if you made a statement that you were going to fire everybody that, and I think you did it publicly. I think they made those statements publicly. Right. So again, that's not covered by the president's office, even for the president. That's probable cause and articulation of a federal felony. Thanks, sir. Well, because I'm trying to stop this nonsense that you're all part of. Believe me, people have gone to hell that were in the deep state attacking me like in 2005. They're already in hell suffering. I hear from them Hashem has me hear from them every so often, so I remember that. I mean, I'm sick of hearing it already. Thank you, Lawrence. But Hashem wants me, I guess, to remember that they're there and remind you not to go there. Right. No, you're obviously not spiritual. On reverse. Likewise. Agreed. No, it's a scam. because it's very easy to look, again, the scripture speaks about it, how you'll look like angels of light, ministers of righteousness. Right. What you're all pointing is at the people that don't, you all point at the people that don't look like angels of light and ministers of righteousness. And it's a very simple equation. When you have a good life, when people take care of you, when you have a lot of friends, when you have money, you have a social thing. Again, I explained how the children of the LDS, it's not like something miraculous. It's actually a physical equation. Right. And again, if they're corrupt, then they're experts at manipulating the physical condition. It's not, it's not even anything related to God at all. And maybe thieves stealing other people's lives, like the Pol Pot effect. We do everybody else, and they'll let us be and give us things. Right. Thank you, Larry. No, I mean, at this point, they're just, the derogatory term goyim fits. Like they earned it. That kind of thing. Right. Well, like Shabbat. Shabbat could be totally fake. The people in Shabbat could just be operators, demonic operators that and they look great. Because, again, like I told you, when you look at clinical psychology, when you look at social sciences, it's not hard to figure out what you're doing. And then with my added metaphysics, it's a completely undeniable truth at that point. Right. No, they're just manipulating social science and psychology, and with all this online capability, they're destroying everybody else's kid, so their kid can look better. And then they use, again, algorithms could do anything to you. There is no way to fight it over the long haul while people are physically in your life. There's going to be an effect. Right. Anybody you saw that fought it is actually not having the same thing done to them. Correct. Like, in essence, I'm not really at the bottom of the barrel of, they'll say it, but people that had 0.0000001% done to them are dead from it. Right. Within, a relatively short period, like Jonathan Luna. And then the other marshals and deputies. Right. So they're doing this shit to me, and I see them, and it isn't the license plates, right? Although I'm running their license plates to figure out who they are. And again, I've got to realize part of the scam is, but it's maybe not a scam. It's a crime. Part of their crime is that they take over your workplace in the government, and it's like, well, who can I tell this to? I mean, they have studied crimes and developed their systems off of studying case after case as FBI agents, as CIA. So they know they're the creme de la creme of criminals. They have a CIA level system of how to commit crimes, and it's not for the good of anybody, but it's for corruption purposes. Right. Well, again, a bunch of them are in the Trump administration right now, but they're not, again, that's their job. That's their ruse. They're just going to make money because it's never enough for them. Again, like I said, we could have had, if we adjust for cost of living, we could have people as wealthy as Elon and others years ago, but they weren't corrupt. They weren't like me. They're like, it's much better for me to take my wealth and pass it around. And Trump may have been like that years ago. I know he's not like that now, but right. So essentially, right, they would use their money just to make people's lives better. Right. So they couldn't get to that amount of wealth. Now, It's Satan, and the system has, the spies are focusing people on money so much, they're not going to help people. Again, the church won't help people. It's just a scam. Right. And Satan has that scam, and I brought it up before. Satan will crash a certain percentage of the people so you can come along and say you're charitable and you're wonderful and you're saving people. But the people that Satan really wanted to crash, because you exist, all of you, Satan crashes additional people so you can have the bullshit feeling like you're doing something real. Because after all, you only did something horrible, demonic, and devilish to 10% of the people. Right. But that 10% is actually God's people, the real God's people. Thank you, Larry. So again, when you see trans people, a lot of them are probably angels. I've been studying for a while. I can't figure out completely all of it. I'm trying to put my shoes on there. Right. But I've figured out a lot of it. And there are a lot of them were Jewish. There's a lot of Jewish trans people. It's Satan. Satan caused it. Again, if you're trans, God has no bone to pick with you unless you're moving magic to possess people's minds, or moving, spells and curses to cause people to become trans or to become a drug addict. Or like, there are people, who was it? This was an example. Well, again, I'll use that example. You'll have people that are anti-child porn that end up in child porn, right? Or convicted for something for child porn, because that's a phenomenon. You have to be protected to do that. It shouldn't be. You're supposed to get ups, but the system doesn't give them anymore. So if you're part of the deep state, you're protected to investigate porn, but what do? They play with it. Right? They use this spycraft to cause people to fall into porn. So you're also being physically targeted, and that's what I tell them to look for. Because no doubt that Satan's targeting you. If you make a public statement that child porn should not exist and children should be protected, they'll come at you. If you don't have $1 million in the bank, right off the bat, you're struggling. Right? That's how it works. But it's not supposed to work like that. It's supposed to be reversed. You make those statements, you're supposed to go up. Right? You have people that analyze it. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. It's kind of scary, the other one sounds. I might send it back. I'll try it again. I ordered $30 in windshields just to get it out of the way, because you got to order them from China. And the one fell off. But windshield being like a furry thing that you put on there to block the wind. Right? A windscreen of sorts. I'm going to check the battery power on these. Record's on. I got to get record off. And that'll extend the battery life. That's what I'm dealing with. Okay, so that's why my batteries won't lasting on these, probably. Yeah, but these, I might send the other ones back. They're not going to be happy with it, but if I can't clean up that sound, I think it's the EQ. I think I just need to, if I hit the high fidelity button, it might clean it up itself. So I'm going to try that, because this is without an EQ on my particular device. The EQ is, I may have actually, based upon putting it through, I didn't think about that. Right, I may want to turn off the other stuff, anything that's an EQ, because I have software EQs that I put it through, so maybe too much EQ. That over processing can ruin the sound. So what happened is also I tried to go to, but again, things happen and Hashem keeps me awake, so I can go. I'm up in the middle of the night, so what I'm doing is I'm going through news and other things, and I'm processing data. Also, if I'm on Amazon looking and they're attacking me, like they put the price of things to be certain numbers, right? And they'll say they're investigating, but they're not. They're actually trying to cause paranoia. It has nothing to do with committing a crime, or me committing a crime. Of course, them committing a crime. They'll say the paranoia means that I committed a crime, but what they're doing is it's a psyop. It's not an investigation. They'll tell you it's an investigation. That's a scam. Right. It affects everyone, especially after so many years. It used to not affect me very much. No, they're torturing me around it, drugging me around it while they're torturing me. Again, they'll go to hell, man. Their parents are already in hell. They'll be in hell next. But we go to church and synagogue and we got money. Right. So I bought these wristbands. They look pretty good. I'm trying to see if I can get some things to enhance it. But, you know, somebody's saying, well, these don't last all that long. But they're only like, you know, less than $10 a piece. You know, if it lasts 3 months, I think I got my money's worth. Right? Thank you, Lance. There's no such thing as me stopping what I'm doing. It's a scam. It'll always be I have to stop doing something. And they go, he can never do anything right. He's such a loser, you know. But no, it's a scam. Right? Right. Well, in my book, the Trump administration is failing because I was attacked by the deep state and church. Right. So again, you know, I don't have to play your game, all of you. I can support the president and his administration where I can, and I can tell the truth, whether, you know, additional truth. Again, as I tell the truth for you, I can tell the truth, I wouldn't say against you, I would advise you in which direction you should go. Right. Oh, there's no doubt that Kash Patel and what's his boss's name? I forget his name. That guy that was the Devin Nunes, they owe me millions of dollars. There's no doubt. But, you know, I don't have, there's no way. In other words, they'll pay, in other words, if I sue them for $1 million, their system would pay my lawyer $10 million to throw the case. See, that's how it works. That's how the system actually works. And of course, the case would go nowhere. Okay, well, Deep State wanted to show me everything. Well, fine, show me everything. I mean, you're pretty stupid to show me everything. Right. That's how it works. They got so much money they don't care. They just want to be the devils that they are. Thanks, Larry. Actually, if you want to get back at every political party and political person and dirty agent in the world, just investigate what they did to my life and what they stole and said was their information. They got cash awards in government. They got contracts in the private sector. Right. While suppressing my life. You see, that's the part that makes it absolutely illegal. Right. And psychologically operating me. Well, you'll go to hell, all of you. It's the only place where, you know, if you would have allowed my life to one day, and I explained it to you, every place I lived, if you had let my life back up, you would have paid your debt to God. God's not, you know, requiring anything all that much, but you just continued on. Therefore, there's no way for you all to get out of hell. Now, even the LDS will say it, but I suspect the LDS are going hell light because they'd have to describe themselves on who's going to hell, and they don't want to get there. Right. So, although my pre-folded coffee filters, I'm a sinner. I'm drinking sinner juice. Medically, coffee's better than getting amphetamines from the doctor. Right. 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 Well, I mean, here's an example. The people in the church that operated me and those that accepted it are responsible for me drinking coffee. Because there's no way, again, like I explained to you, it's not hard to figure out how you live your life at this point. Well, you're devils, and you go to hell for it, but that's okay. You know, God will deal with that in the afterlife. It's not my business. But I'll speak the truth as long as I live. And if you want to kill me, give it a try. I guarantee better people than you have tried. And one day I will die. because that's just, you have limited life. This is a limited life partnership. I'm out of here when it's time. But don't buy the pre-folded coffee filters, the off-brand for the Chem. What is it? The Chem? I forget what it's called. Chem something. Chem Brothers or something. Coffee. Just a glass thing. A pour-over coffee thing. Because they're scams. You have to buy the name brand. There might be one that's not. If you buy them locally, this is one thing. If you buy locally, it's cheaper. It's one thing Amazon has not been able to recreate is the local purchase of those Chemex filters. I think it's Chemex. I think that's what it is. Chemical Brothers. I think it's a band or something, like a new wave band or something, or trance music or. Well, that's why I drink coffee, because you did that to me. If you didn't do that to me, I could have stopped drinking coffee. Again, you're affecting my serotonin and everything else. My delta waves, my alpha waves, my beta waves. You're all sick. You'll all go to hell for it. And my sexuality, I imagine. Yeah, every one of those young women that were part of it were projecting sexuality. But again, victim shaming. Oh, you received that sexuality. Well, I don't have status not to receive that sexuality. Again, even the credit to the LDS missionaries, they said, well, you're going to have thoughts. Everybody has thoughts. Right. But again, if you're purposefully projecting it as a Christian, you're going to go to hell. Unless you wanted to meet me, and that's how you... Like I said, one of the women that was a massage therapist, I said, I don't know what she's doing. Maybe she doesn't know how to meet a man. Maybe thinks it's supposed to be sexual. Because she put her head down by my genitalia. Again, they knew they had to stop it, and that's why they made up the false allegation. Or they probably had already done that, but then they moved it to the next level. Right, because she put her head down. Again, this is probably how they do it for the vast majority of people they do it to, and then they grab the head and try to have oral sex or try to insinuate they want oral sex. Right, but she put her head. No massage therapist is going to take the position this woman took. This is when I knew it was most likely BS. But the last thing to figure out was, is she like hurting for cash? And she said she had a kid, and she needs somebody to be close to her. Like it's an honest attempt at relationship. So I gave her my card, and I said, I don't think at that point, I think I'd already given her my card, or maybe it was after that, I can't remember. And I said, this is who I am. I'm a psychic and all that. And I didn't hit on her, but the idea was if she was looking to contact me, here's the way to do it. You don't try to have sex with me in the massage setting. So I had to rule out the fact that she was because I'm not in position to investigate. So I wanted to rule out the fact that she was, make sure she isn't just an honest person that doesn't know how to, because in Santa Fe, New Mexico, that's how you start a relationship. You'll get high, drunk, and a man has sex with a woman has sex with a man. That's how they start relationships. And other places, the FBI also. But I wanted to I would teach her, you go get coffee and that kind of thing, right? Not that I was going to have a relationship with her, just be friends or something. And if she needed something, maybe I could give it to her. Maybe I could, she needed, $100 because my kid's birthday's coming up, and right. Well, women in Santa Fe, in New Mexico, are taught, that sexual science. There's no doubt. Their STDs are out of control. I'm not sure why I went into that, but we went into that. I was talking about, how the projection, I guess. Right. So what they were trying to do is teach me to orgasm on command. They were actually trying that. And I caught them at it. Thank you, Larry. I've studied that. I know it exists. Thank you, Larry. So, I would be in the inappropriate location. That's mostly metaphysical, right? It's possession, but there are psychological things that they do to create that. God, been the whole time. That's one of their goals. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do.